Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Hope we're all having a very blessed Holy Week. I know it's coming to an end, the holiest week of the year. The best week of the year is coming to an end, so I hope we get to enjoy the last bits of it. So Thursday of Holy Week is such an important day that we really don't have enough time to talk about everything that's happened from this morning until now. But what we'll do is we'll sort of have a quick run through of what's happened. Some people consider Thursday as the prequel to Friday. So if you've come to church this morning, there was a sort of a pretty big service that's happened, plus tonight. So it's sort of, you can even consider today as like a mini Good Friday. Okay, so it's sort of giving us the taste of what's to come tomorrow. Just because of the magnitude of what's happened today. And sometimes we forget that because it's in Holy Week, that Thursday is not an important day, but it's actually one of the minor feasts of the Lord. And we say that because the normal Pascha routine in the morning completely changes. So Hanna opens the curtain for the first time, he raises incense for the first time this week, we pray liturgy for the first time, deacons wear their vestments, and then sort of halfway through the tunes just change to normal because it is a feast. The cymbals are played, so it's a very different vibe than Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of Pascha. And that's because, like I said, it's a minor lordly feast, so it's bittersweet in that it's mournful, but it's also joyful. Same thing for tomorrow, for Good Friday. Great, it's a great day for us that Christ has given us salvation. So that's why it's sort of, again, bittersweet. There's mournful and there's happy. So if we look at everything that's happened today, from the morning till the evening, there's an overarching theme that infiltrates all of Christ's actions, infiltrates everything that he does today, follows this sort of one theme. And what that is love. So everything he did from this morning until today, we see love. Okay? Everything Christ did this week, everything Christ did today, everything he will do tomorrow, everything he does in our life is all because of love. His self-sacrificial, self-emptying, and unconditional love he has for us. So what I thought we'd do is that with today's events, we can categorize them into sort of three categories. And what we'll do is each of these categories, we'll see what's happened and see how Christ's love infiltrates it and what we can learn from these three different categories. But first, let's quickly contemplate on the meaning of love, because we need to understand love to understand Christ. So, you look at the Greek text of the New Testament and compare it to the English. You look at the English, the word love is just love. Yeah, there's no difference. Whereas if you look at in the original Greek text, there are 4 different words for love that note the type of love that's being talked about. So, for example, the first one is agape, which is divine love. Then you have storge, which is family love, which is the love that we have between siblings, between family members. We have philia love, which is brotherly love, which is ones between really close friends that you can consider them as brothers. And then you have eros love, which is romantic love, the love between husband and wife. But what we'll do today is focus on agape love, which is divine love, which is the love that we see Christ show from this morning until right now. So, the Epistle of St. John, the first Epistle of St. John, chapter 4, verse 7 to 9, this is what he says. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. In this, the love of God was manifested towards us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him. So what I want to focus on is those 3 words, God is love. So what does that actually mean? God is love does not mean that God is a type of love. He's not a different way of expressing what love is. But rather, God is the standard by which we measure love. He is the absolute definition of love. Anything outside of Christ, anything outside of Christ's love is not love. To know true love, to experience true love, is to know Christ and to experience him. So if God is love, and that's all he is, then what are the characteristics of that divine love? And the characteristics of that divine love is found in St. Paul's epistle to the Corinthians, his first epistle to Corinthians, chapter 13. That entire chapter is all about love. So I'll quickly read the parts where it describes what love is. It starts from the beginning. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burnt, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, love never fails. So these characteristics, particularly bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, love never fails. We see that from the start of this morning until today, and it's expressed all of tomorrow. So like I said, if we look at the characteristics, if we look at the different categories that we can categorize today's events, there are three. The first is love in service, which is the morning part. Then the second category is love during trials and tribulations, which is what's happened tonight. And then the third one, which was the climax of this morning's service, which is the Eucharist as the mystery of love. So we'll sort of delve into those three categories, and we'll see Christ's love in these three categories and what we can learn from them. So, like I said, the first category is love and service. So, majority of this morning we see Christ set an example to his disciples and to all of us as to the nature of service. How do we serve? How are we meant to serve? What are we supposed to be aiming for in our service? And what does it mean to be a true Christian servant? Christ, being the master of all, the King of kings, creator of the universe, Lord of lords, went down on his knees and washed the feet of his disciples. You can't get a greater servant than that. And for Christ to be able to do that, how much love does he have? The fact that he, being God, came down and washed our feet. Only someone who's truly God, who has true godly love, is able to achieve this without any form of pride, without being egotistic, and without expecting a reward from anyone. So Christ came, he washed the feet of his disciples. Peter, supposedly his right-hand man, betrayed him. One of the disciples who Christ also washed his feet betrayed him. So he didn't get anything out of it. But out of pure love, he served them by washing their feet. So what does it mean for me? So what can we learn from this true act of love through service? So there's a great book that I came across recently by Father Matthew the Poor, who's the abbot of St. Macarius Monastery. And he describes everything about Christian service. And funny enough, the title of the book is called If You Love Me. So just as a side note, if you are a servant, if you're looking to become a servant, get this book. I think it's I would say it's a guide on how to serve. It's a servant's handbook. So Buonamata says this: love is the ultimate criterion for Christ's service. Any criterion used to measure our service other than love is merely human measurement. This criterion of love rests on three basic foundations. Love for God, which is the driving motive for any service. We serve because we love God. Love for those that we serve, because if we don't love the people that we serve, that service won't be fruitful. There needs to be that bond of love between the servant and those who are served. And the last foundation is the love for the church. Because Christ, the church being the body of Christ, we love the church because we love Christ. And we're serving the church because we love the church. The church is our mother. No one doesn't love their mother. So we serve the church because she is our mother. But Abunamata also said, since service is obviously the Lord himself calls those who serve him. And the qualities of a Christian servant, they're three: the love for God, the longing for God, and the faithfulness to God. So a servant needs to have the love of God, needs to long for God himself personally, and needs to be faithful towards God. Because if he's not that himself, he can't show that to the people he serves. So, like I said, we see Christ kneeling in the front of the disciples to wash their feet, and he only does this because of his immense love for them. Even like Saint Peter, he even says to Saint Peter, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. So Christ desires for everyone, including you and I, to be washed so that we can be partners with him. Not just being Christians who know, not just us being Christians who know him, but every single human on the earth, Christ wants them to be a part of him. His will is for everyone to be partners with him. And that's why true Christian service, which is what Christ shows us throughout the entire gospel, but particularly today, true Christian service focuses on one thing and one thing only: bringing those we serve to Christ. And Abunamata sort of perfectly sums everything up. He says, if unity was Christ's ultimate aim in his work and redemption, all believers would become one in him and in the Father. And if love is the divine means of effecting that sacred unity in God, then clearly the servant's first task is to instruct his children in divine love by providing them with a living example of it. And he quotes St. John, a quote from St. John's Gospel: by this all will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. So the first category, love in service, Christ shows us that for us to be able to serve truly, we need to show love, because he showed love by his service. The second category of events today is what's happened tonight. So love in trials and tribulations. So we see Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, particularly in the 6th and the 9th hour today. He's in complete agony. He says the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He is having an intense internal battle. His spirit wants to be able to keep going and fulfill the mission that he's come for, but his body is holding him back. He's fully aware, even to the point where Christ prays to God and says, Abba Father, all things are possible for you, take this cup away from me. So you can see that battle, and that battle's so intense that his sweat becomes like drops of blood. He's fully aware of what's to come, yet despite the massive tribulation and trial that he's currently going through in the garden, internally, and obviously he knows that there are people coming for him, he's concerned about his disciples. Despite all that, he's concerned about his disciples. He says, watch and pray lest you fall into temptation. We always read this part of the story in the gospel, and we sort of read it in the terms of Christ rebuking the disciples because they're not praying. But what I want us to do today is look at it in the eyes of love. He's going through trial, but because he loves them immensely and unconditionally, he doesn't want them to fall. He doesn't want them to fall into temptation. So how much love does it take for someone to, when they're going through a trial, to not think of their trial, but think of someone else's problems and trying to help that person while going through their own struggles? You know, generally when we go through temptations, we become quite selfish. We always pray, God, help me. I can't do this on my own. And we tend to forget about praying for everyone else because we're so bogged down in our own tribulation. But we see Christ's example here, where he's going through his temptation, he's going through his trial, complete agony, sweating blood, but caring for the disciples at the same time. You can only do that if you have love. And again today, or tonight, we see how Christ responds to Judas. So Judas came, betrayed him with a kiss, which we all know that a kiss is a gesture of love. Christ allows him to kiss him, knowing that that kiss is a kiss of betrayal. But again, out of immense love for Judas, he's still worried about Judas and wanting him to return. And he says, friend. Saint Dionysius of Alexandria, from the 3rd century, he says this perfectly. How magnificent is the endurance of evil by the Lord, who even kissed his own traitor, and then spoke words even softer than a kiss. For he did not say, O you abominable one or traitor, is this what you do in return of great kindness? He simply says, friend. This is in the voice of one who empathizes with another, or who wishes another to come back to him, not the voice of anger. So again, out of true love that Christ has for Judas, he washed his feet early this morning. He calls him friend after he betrays him with that kiss. How many of us can really say when we're sort of wronged by someone directly, and not just anyone, but someone who's extremely close to us, would even think or go to the point of calling them friend at that point of betrayal, or that point of where they've wronged you? It only takes someone who's got immense love to be able to do that. So we see Christ with the disciples, Christ with Judas, but then we also see Christ with the servants of the high priest, Malchus. So this person has come from the high priest to arrest Christ and take him, trial him, and in his mind hopefully put this guy to death. Peter cuts off his right ear. What does Christ do? He doesn't just leave him. Oh, he's come for me. He's going to arrest me. I'm just going to leave him. No, he has love for that person, and he heals his right ear. Again, this guy has come to take him away, but out of love, he heals his ear. Christ's love is not just for those who know him. It's not just for you and I. Christ's love goes beyond us and goes to the entire world. Every human being is loved by God. He's created everyone. He loves everyone. His love shows no partiality, like it says in the gospel. His love extends to everyone, regardless of gender, race, religion. His love is equal to everyone. And it's shown today through the servants of the high priest. So that's the second category, love in trials and tribulations. Then the third one, which is the climax of this morning's Pascha service, is the Eucharist. And the Eucharist is a mystery of love. So let's think about sort of this for a second. Why did Christ institute the Eucharist today? Right, like the day before he was about to die. Why today and not any other day in the last 3 years of his ministry, or the last 30 years of his life on earth? Why the day before he dies? Again, out of love for his disciples. So he knows that they're going to leave him tonight. He knows that no one's going to be there at the cross, obviously except St. John. He knows that they won't see him until the resurrection. And even after the resurrection, they won't see him every day. So out of love, what does he do? He gives them himself in the form of bread and wine. His body and blood in the form of bread and wine. They eat him, they have him physically inside them, so that he does not leave them when he physically leaves them. If that makes sense. So out of pure love for his disciples, he does not want to leave them. Obviously, the disciples had no idea what was happening. They understood this later. But for us, we know that the Eucharist is the mystery of mysteries. We come and we partake of Christ physically. Every morsel that we have is Christ entirely. It's not a part of Christ, it's all of Christ. So St. John Chrysostom contemplates on the Eucharist, and in this contemplation he's talking as if he is Christ explaining the Eucharist. And I love this deeply. So this is what he says. But what shall I say? It is not in this way only that I have shown my love to you, but by what I have suffered. For you I was spit upon, I was scourged, I emptied myself of glory, I left my Father, I came to you, you who do hate me and turn from me, and I loathe to hear my name. I pursued you, I ran after you, that I might overtake you. I united and joined myself to you. Eat me, drink me, I said. Above I hold you, and below I embrace you. Is it not enough for you that I have your first fruits above? Do not this satisfy my affection? I descended below. I am not only mingled with you, I am entwined in you. I am masticated, so chewed. I am masticated, broken into minute particles, that the interspersion and commixtion and union may be more complete. Things united remain yet in their own limits, but I am interwoven with you. I would have no more any division between us. I will that we both be one. So again, out of pure love that Christ has, not just for his disciples, but for us, he gives us himself in bread and wine, so that when we eat him, chew him and drink him, we break his body up in our mouth so that it goes all over. That's virtually what St. John the Chrysostom is saying. He goes, I am interwoven. Interwoven is something that you can't undo. We're mingled with him, we're entwined with him. And that's only out of pure love. So, as I conclude, I want to read this prayer that one of the church fathers wrote, that I read when I got home today, and it sort of sums up everything that's happened today in a form of a prayer. Okay, this is what he says. It's got this church father's unnamed for some reason. He goes, "Who is worthy for you to descend and wash his feet? St. Peter tried to prevent you, but who could resist the will of the Lord? If we did, we would have no fellowship with you, as you said, for it was your complete desire to be our servant, even lower than servants who were not required to wash the feet of guests. Lord, out of your love, you desire to cleanse even the most filthy part of our lives. This is why you came, but truly, who is worthy of this?" In this service, St. Peter could not allow anyone to bow to him, saying, "I am just a man," but you, O Lord, were able to do what men couldn't. You were able to come to our weakness and sin, lowering yourself, taking the form of a servant. Even you bowed to sinners, even Judas, on the same day that he would betray you, the same day he would reject you as his Lord. Who forced you to do this? You could have told him to go and do what he had as to you did during the Passover meal, but you waited to show him the fullness of your love for him, for all sin and for all sinners. You tried until the last moment. You wished for him to come back to you, but he did not respond. You didn't reject him and tell him to go away. Despite all my sins, you never told me once to go away, but every day in your amazing, incomprehensible humility, you descended to me and washed my feet. Each day, regardless of the filth. You are not sick of my face. You are not tired of my weakness, but you are always seeking to be my Master and Lord through such great work. Who is worthy of your honored body and blood, that which the angels desire to look into, who hover around declaring, "Holy, holy, holy." That which defeated the devil and all the wickedness, that which shattered the rocks and conquered all creation. Who is worthy of all your words for us? Truly no man ever spoke like this. No man spoke to us of such great selflessness, sacrifice, and sweetness. Who is worthy of your prayer? For St. Peter was going to deny the Lord, but you prayed for him that he will be protected from the devil. You prayed for him that he will not fall into despair. You prayed for him even though he rejected you before many people. You remain faithful. You remain true, just, and loyal. Even though we reject you out of weakness, you never forgot us. You look at our best, whatever we can put forth. Who is worthy of all this? Truly, your humility and love is too great for us to comprehend. You have won us by such humble love. We are yours. We seek none other than you. From what you have done, we are yours forever. We are defeated and our sin is conquered by your act of humility. What value do you see in me, such a miserable sinner? Today you wash with water, tomorrow with blood, and on the third day you will allow me to sit in the heavenly places to sit with you on your throne. Glory be to God.